Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way.
Having a mental illness is not really a fun thing to have. It's like having a cancer of the mind. When you're a child, your mind seems to be intact, but as you get older, you start to notice that you think differently than other people, that you speak differently than the kids in your class, and that you see things differently than the people around you. Um, you think something's wrong with you, so you keep it to yourself. But the more you keep it inside, the sicker you get. And the sicker you get, the worse you feel. And the worse you feel, the more people notice. And when people start to notice, everything seems to go wrong. And it seems like everybody wants to tell you what to do, and nobody seems to want to listen. It seems like the doctors, the nurses, your parents, your friends all seem to want to tell you what to do, trying to help you, but they don't seem to know what's wrong. My cancer is schizoaffective disorder. I have schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, and I have bipolar, which is my affective disorder. I also have post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, and ADHD. For a long time, I knew something was wrong with me. I knew that I was different than other kids. I knew that I was seeing things that weren't really there. I was hearing things that weren't really there. And I was paranoid all the time for no apparent reason. And I knew that I was manic, and I knew that I was getting irritated and hyper all the time, but didn't really know why. And then for a long time, I'd be depressed and didn't know why. And I had post-traumatic stress disorder from the things that I went through as a child.
Hi, my name is Tammy. I'm here to talk about my mental illness, which I suffer from bipolar depression and anxiety. I thought I'd start with a poem that explains and describes my mental illness and how it affects me. Who I am, your mother, your sister, I can be your daughter. I am the person that people hate to see coming. I have no understanding about life because in my sickness, life is just pain and strife. Love is absent not because I don't know how to love, but I'm afraid. In my mental sickness, love doesn't exist, only a figment of my imagination. I feel at times I'm above the sky soaring through the clouds. Then all of a sudden, I have touched bottom. Reality has set in. I'm not alone in my disease. People do care and love me. They do understand my disease. I call it a disease, but it's not contagious like a cold, but I've learned it can be treated. But I must first start with me. As long as I take my medication and as long as I take my medication, my episodes won't be repeated and I can live and be free. The reason I wrote this poem is because it describes who I am and what my mental illness does and how it affects me. I was diagnosed in 2009 with depression, bipolar anxiety, but prior to that, as a child, I believe I've always had it as far as I can remember, with my temper tantrums and my wild behavior, episodes of feeling like I was on cloud nine, then all of a sudden I just dropped down to the bottom. I've learned that through my medication and education, I've learned how to deal with my disease. My disease has taken me to places I never wanted to go, a place I never imagined I would go, all because during that time I was not diagnosed with my disease. But now I'm able to accept my disease, acknowledge that I have disease, and learn and find better ways how to understand and treat my disease. And for the most part, my treatment consists of me taking my medication, me going to therapy, me seeing my psychiatrist, and when I need help, not being afraid to ask for help.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Harris. I'm a schizophrenic. I have daily struggles in which I could share one example. I wake up some mornings, I hear these raging voices in my head, and I start rocking. Then, if that's the way I feel, I want to share it with you. So, it's a very angry voice I hear sometimes. I'm cursing in my head. I'm out of control.
Honestly, when I was turning towards my family, and this is sad to say, when I lived in my grandparents' home, it was sad to say this, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my grandma said she could not live with a mentally ill person. So I had about 30 days to make a decision. So I made the decision to admit myself into Holly Hills because I felt like, well, you know what? I don't have no other choice. And at that point, I was losing custody of my daughter, and I just was on a spiral going downhill. And it wasn't just once that I was, going down that spiral. I had tried to swallow 62 pills worth of trazodone. And I was trying to reach out to my family. I had like checked out books about borderline personality disorder. I didn't know I had a bunch of other, like other mental illnesses on top of that. And like I tried to get my grandparents involved in a support group, but they refused. And it made me very frustrated and angry. And the only person I felt like at the time that was really listening to me was Michael Janella, and that was my therapist for close to 5 years.
Well, me, I think when you say if a person doesn't know what mental illness means, they'll probably say, well, you don't have a mental illness. I mean, you have to like read about it, paper search. Do research on it to really know what it is. And you can go to a doctor and you can have a mental illness and they can say you don't have it. You can have a mental illness for a long time until you explode. And then when you explode, then they wonder why this person had a mental illness, why you didn't help when you needed help. So I think some people can't really explain what mental illness is because you can go to some doctors and they say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Then you have to go to different doctors. And then once you explode and this person had a mental illness, then you'll say, damn, you want to lock them up or whatever. So you need to really have research on it before